Okay, so some of you guys have asked how I make my sourdough bread, and so I'm just going to do a short video because it's easier to make a video to explain it rather than other ways of explaining it. So here I've got on this table all the things that you need to get it going. I've got a blender, Vitamix. That's what we use to grind up the homemade wheat berry, hard white wheat, and spelt grain. You can use other kinds of a grain like einkorn and so on, but these are the ones that we're going to use today. Pour them in there, blend them up. This is the Costco organic flour right here. I've already kind of pre-poured it, and you have to have a scale. Well, you don't have to, but I use it because it's more accurate to actually weigh your materials rather than using cups and measurements. Got a big mixing bowl. Got my trusty sourdough starter here, some sea salt, and room temperature water. So those are the things that you need. I'll show you how it's done now. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, the hard white wheat and the spelt, and the ratio is 60% of the bread is going to be the Costco flour, and the other 40% is going to be these two. But these are equally divided, so it's 20%, 20%, 60%, okay? So I gotta weigh these out. Now, the recipe that I'm doing is a little extra large, and so, anyway, you'll see the recipe and the amounts, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weigh it. So I'll get this out, and we're gonna get that open and on to zero and make sure it's on grams. And then with the hard white wheat, I'm going to measure out 266 grams. Oh, that went a little fast. You can just take a spoon and take it off if you need. 265. We'll go with that. Okay, and then I'm going to put it, if you show over here, we're going to put it in the blender. I've got my trusty daughter doing the filming here. Okay, now we'll do the same thing for the spelt grain. This is back to 0 grams now. That went through that. We're gonna try to do again 266. 266. Oh, perfect. Good enough. All right. Okay. Okay, so we've got this now blended up. What we're going to go ahead and do, so we've got our two kinds of flour ready to go. This is 60%, that's 40%, again, 60%, 40%. That's how I do it. Some people, if you want to make it like lighter and fluffier, you can do like maybe 20% of the home ground stuff and then 80%, but I like to have more of the home ground healthy stuff, grain, flour, whatever. So I do 40%. Okay, so we're gonna get the wet stuff going. Zero that out. Now I'm gonna put in here, according to my bigger batch recipe, 970 grams of lukewarm water. Okay, it's important that it's not cold. 900, what did I say? 970, okay. Let's see if we got enough in here. Ooh, we might just have enough. Might not have to put, 975. That's okay. All right, then we're gonna put in the starter. And I'm putting in, starter is gonna be 159 grams. And for that, I'm just gonna use this spoon over here. So we're gonna zero that out. We're gonna do 159. Now, people have all kinds of different opinions about starter and what it needs to look like and all this kind of stuff. I find that my bread is pretty forgiving. So, I did way too much, 172 instead of 159, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It's gonna be okay. The starter is one of the things that you can add more of or less of, and it actually doesn't make too much difference. At least that's what I've found in my experience. All right, so now I'm gonna get like a long fork. I'm just gonna mix this stuff up. I wanna get a good shot of this. I like using a fork because it kind of teeth on the fork kind of help break this up pretty well. Okay, so you can come and see this. We've got it all, see that? It's all nice and mixed up in there now. I'm gonna put in the salt, which on this batch is gonna be 26 grams. And you're gonna hear my son pretty soon here because he's come over to check it out and he's surely gonna make noise. Oh, 26 on the dot, man. You know I'm a professional. Okay, so now that's in there. I've already weighed this out, so I know that this is the right amount of Costco flour. This is 800 grams. 800 grams. So we're just gonna go ahead and put that right on in. Yes, sir. And then we already weighed the home ground grains. That nice fluffy flour. Thank you, Vitamix. We already weighed it out so we know it's the right amount. So we're just gonna dump that in. All right, now just mix it up. I don't like getting my hands dirty. Some people like getting their hands in there, so I just typically use a fork, a long fork, or I'll use a big spatula. Oops. And get it done. All right, you just kind of mix and mix and mix. I'll show you the final product in a second. Okay, so you can see right here, we're almost done mixing this, kind of what the consistency is looking like. And I've got Malachi over here trying to come up on the on the table so you can see what's going on. Anyway, so I switched from a fork. Typically I do this, switch from the fork to a spatula after a while. You just kind of like scoop it up, over, up and over, up and over, that kind of thing. I try and get stuff off the edges. The more it's off the edges, the better, because this stuff sticks like glue to the side of any pot that you have it in. And okay, I think we're about done here. Okay, so it's all mixed up. Now, just throw a cloth over it and set a timer for half an hour. And from the time it's mixed together, I have it out on the counter for 2.5 hours. Take 2.5 hours, break that up into half-hour increments. So I'll start a timer on my phone. Hey Siri, give me a 30-minute timer. And then when it's done, we flip it. I'll show you what that's like in a second. All right, so it's been 30 minutes, and there's our dough. I'm gonna go ahead and get 2 sprays of olive oil on my hands. Make sure you get the tips, and this is how I do it. I go, you getting this? You gotta pull it up, set it down, and then you turn it 25%. I don't know how many degrees that is right offhand, but anyway, do it again. The first time you do it, it's pretty loose, but then the more folds you do, the stiffer it becomes, which is good, because you need it to be not all gooey and loose when you're cooking it. Okay, so the idea is to kind of mix it by doing this, I guess, but also to create some bubbles on the side for whatever reason. That's how I do it. People flip it different ways. But once that's done, then I just cover it back up with the towel and do another 30-minute timer. And then I fold it again, 30 minutes, fold it again, 30 minutes, and so on. Total of 2.5 hours out on the counter. Okay, so for the next step, now that our dough is looking good, see, we even got some bubbles in there, you know? We need to get this dough into the pans. Now, I like to make my sourdough bread in these kind of pans. You typically have sourdough bread in like round shapes in a Dutch oven, but I find this better for slicing and stuff, so I'm gonna do 2 loaves in these 2. You don't want it to stick, so what I do is I use our handy dandy olive oil squirter doohickey here, and make sure I get some oil in each one. Show you our nice messy kitchen. We're making some cobbler today, so we still have some dishes in there. And then oftentimes I'll also take a little bit of some flour, and especially make sure I get it in the corners. So I've got a layer of oil and some flour. Okay, that's just what I do. All right, you can see I've already sprinkled some flour on the surface here. So we're ready to just kind of tip this out. So put it upside down, and okay, and now we've got the dough out, and I'm gonna make 2 loaves. So I'm gonna cut it in half. They have better tools for this, but I just use this big knife because, first get a little bit of oil on my hands so it doesn't stick to my hands. And I just kind of eyeball it, separate them. Like that. Okay. All right, here's how I do it. Different people do it different ways. There's probably no right or wrong way. Fold it in half. Fold it in half. And then fold it in half again. I can already tell this one I have in my hand right now is a little bit bigger than this one. See that flour on the countertop here really helps to make it not stick. Now I go a tuck, and then I roll it up. Okay, I heard a bubble pop. And then you just kind of pull it. You know, this is regular sourdough stuff. Any online tutorial on making sourdough is going to show you this kind of thing. So stick it in there. So you might not need to watch this, but you want to look at the next part maybe for how I like the temperatures and stuff that I do things at in the oven. But this is, you know, how I do it. Roll it up, put some tension in that ball. Boom. All right, that's gonna be a big one. This will be a good size one too. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean all this up, but you can just stick these straight into the refrigerator and cover them with a towel, or do what I like to do is I'll put each one in a little plastic bag and kind of just loosely tie it. I'll sprinkle some powder on top so that the dough doesn't stick to the towel or the bag that goes on it, and then I leave this in here for anywhere from 18 to 24 hours. So it's like probably 8 o'clock right now, so I'll cook it at 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, or 6 hours earlier than that, so it'll be 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Okay, so we're on the last stage of making the bread, which has to do with baking it. As you can see, I pulled these out of the oven now. You can cover them with a towel, or you can do like I do here. I just put a bag around them and put them in the fridge. These have been in the refrigerator for close to 24 hours now. As long as it's between 18 and 24 hours, should be fine. You can see that they've expanded since we put them in there. They were like a kind of a ball shape, and now they've kind of expanded out. And I went ahead and already cut the top on this one. I cut the tops on all of them just a little bit. You want to get kind of through that, what kind of forms a little bit of like a layer on top, skin, if you will. That allows it when it expands, if you've never made this before, so that it expands the right way and the crack opens in the center, not poofing out the side stuff. So when you put these in the oven, you want to go ahead and put something on top that will capture the steam for the first section. And so I just go ahead and use duplicate bread pans, stick them on top. And you can see the oven is heating up here. We're going to bring it up to 425. Now when I put these in, when it reaches 425, as soon as I close that door back, I'm going to bring the temperature down to 400. And when it's at 400, I'm going to cook them for 25 minutes with the lids on. So I set a timer for 25 minutes at 400. And then when the timer goes off, I come back, I take the lids off, leave them in there. And then I bring it down to 375. And then I cook them at 375, not for a set amount of time, but until the internal temperature of the smallest one reaches between 200 and 205 degrees. And how do you know what the internal temperature is? Different ways to do it, but I just use this. It's a cheapo like thing you can stab into meat. So again, I do it on the smallest one. This loaf is going to be smaller than that loaf because you can see the dough is lower. So when I pick one to stab it into, I'm going to put it in this one because this one's going to heat up internally faster. So I'll stab it in this one, watch till this gets to 200 through the window of the oven, and then I'll pull this one out, and then I'll stab this into the bigger one and watch. And sometimes there's a dramatic difference between the bigger and the smaller loaf. So anyway, so when they both reach 200 degrees and you take them out, you set them for 2 hours so that they can continue cooking inside, and then they're ready to eat. Okay, so now we're gonna take the things out. I already have the first one out. They're at 200 degrees on the inside. Go. Let's see. That's a good looking loaf there. You can see they split along the top. And these are sometimes what I use if I don't want it to get too brown on top, I'll throw one of these on top. They call that tenting. You can see right here, look at the internal temperature on that, 200 degrees. Yep, so make sure you stab this right into the core, into the core of the loaf of bread so you get an accurate reading. Now, just I let these set out here for a few minutes before we pop them out. You don't want to let them cool down completely in here because they can get too moist on the inside. And that's it. So hopefully that instruction helped.